Welcome back to Crit and Crit. I'm Axion,
I'm Sint.
and we are continuing through Hollow Knight in our discussion of Lord of the Flies.
No, we're not.
Okay, I was not informed that our plans had changed. Should I be switching to a different game?
I don't know. Don't do that.
Don't do what?
Whatever you're doing. Because see, doesn't just arguing for the sake of arguing show that I am smart and powerful?
It certainly disrupted my chain of thought.
Maybe you're just bad at this. How do you like my Jack impression?
So as you can see, our subject of discussion today is contrarianism.
But this also intersects with something else that's fairly prevalent throughout Lord of the Flies, and this is going to open a hornet's nest. Toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
So, the definition thereof is not to say that being male or male presenting is inherently evil. No, this is the idea that certain Western ideals of masculinity often lead people to directly harm themselves in the name of, quote, looking like a man for no conceivable reason. Like, maybe we should have a different term for it, but it's the term that people generally know and acknowledge, so we're going with it. It's just the idea that the need to prove yourself as a big, strong alpha are going to make you make poor decisions and get yourself and others around you hurt. AKA, Jack. So, Axion, do you want to lead off with the whole contrarianness thing? Because you were the one who mentioned the contrarianism when we talked about episodes for this.
Right. Let me hop over to my notes 1 second. Because I thought I would remember this, and I don't. ADHD in a nutshell, folks. Do not trust yourself to remember something, write it down. Okay, so pretty much from the get-go, as soon as he is introduced, Jack immediately starts trying to take control. He declares that as the leader of the choir boys, he should, and being capable of, I think he says, singing a high C.
Yep, he can sing high C.
That makes him exemplary in the choir, and therefore he is the choir leader, and therefore he should be leader of everything. This is about the tamest Jack gets, because as the story progresses, he takes this relatively silly and more or less benign idea of, I am the best in my particular group, therefore I should be in charge, and expands it in every possible way, especially the bad ones. By the middle chapters, he is actively opposing everything Ralph does. Ow. Solely on account of it not being his idea. I did not mean to fall down that way. And since most of Ralph's ideas come from Piggy, this adds also the complication of Jack doesn't like Piggy. He sees him as weak and cowardly. Ow. Do not like the bombs. Okay. I think I'm safe now. From that, at least. And, this just gets worse and worse as we go. Jack continues to push for being allowed to do whatever he wants solely because of how strong and capable he is. He is the one who hunts. He can get them meat. Therefore, he should be allowed to be able to do whatever he wants and be exempt from important duties like building shelter and tending for the fire.
And he absolutely does not like if you point out the fact that he isn't doing his job. Because remember, the condition that he and the choir were allowed to be the hunters was that they also kept the fire going.
And that's what I was saying, is that he thinks that he should be exempt from having to care for the fire because he's hunting.
Yep. But remember, they also do not let go of the fact that you said you were going to get the meat, and you didn't. You couldn't do it. So Jack very quickly starts neglecting everything else in the pursuit of, I'm going to be tough and capable of killing this pig. So the contrarianist, I think, stems largely from he gets obsessed with the idea of, I can do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to be stronger than this pig. I'm going to be big and tough and a provider, because that is what society has always told me I should be. And I'm going to be in charge.
Right.
Yet, Jack does not restrict himself to solely just arguing for the sake of arguing. Everything he does seems to be about putting himself in a position where he is able to hurt others for being, quote, lesser. Very early on, when they're still establishing rules, Ralph starts talking about, like, the conch will be important, the conch will mean that it's your turn to speak and we'll have order. Jack was on his feet. We'll have rules, he cried excitedly. Lots of rules. Then when anyone breaks them. And then he trails off, because the other boys start yelling about other things, but Jack wants rules. He doesn't want an anarchic society. He just wants to be able to punish anyone who doesn't do what he says. Because he is the alpha in his own mind. He can sing high C. Should we point out for a second that being able to hit a high note is, while tenors can do it, high voices are typically more associated with feminine traits, so there's a great irony here. I'm just saying.
I mean, I'm sure there's a commentary to be made there as well, but I haven't really thought about it beyond just observing. So
yeah,
I
I'm fairly certain using I can sing high C as a criteria for being a good leadership is kind of along the lines of the modern major general who is, not at all qualified for his position, but he has all these other completely useless random skills and training. Just because you can do this one thing does not mean it correlates well to other things. Just because you think you'd be a good leader doesn't mean you will be. And Jack very much proves that in every sense of the word. Jack also tries very, 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 very hard to never be seen crying. The few occasions where he is embarrassed by something, he quickly hides his face. He's quick to call the others crybabies because it's not seemly. That's for babies and girls mindset.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ow.
But yeah, most of Jack's character arc is driven by this desperate need to be seen as strong and powerful, which are traditionally associated traits with toxic masculinity. Like, as a counterpoint, you have Ralph, who, never seems to be falling into this trap, and he seems perfectly secure with himself. He's making better decisions, he's trying to keep everybody together, he's not obsessed with, I will be big and strong and powerful and lord this over others. But he's not able to oppose it when Jack gets it into his head that this is what he needs to do. It's such a strong culturally conditioned thing that it's easy for other boys to get caught up in it. Like Roger and Maurice, for example, are basically mini Jacks. Roger just has less of a fetter and doesn't seem to be concerned about power so much as just being able to hurt others because he can. He doesn't want authority so much as just, cruelty.
The freedom to do what he wishes. He doesn't want to be in charge, he just doesn't want to be punished.
Yep, and the freedom only exists for, those who are powerful enough to do so. Ayn Rand, eat your heart out.
There's a fairly prominent particular statement that's going around the internet these days that speaks along these lines. Ow, 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 ow.
What, I don't know how to explain to you that you need to care about other people?
That's not the one I was thinking of, though it is also relevant. It basically goes, there is... Wow, those guys just trashed me.
Couldn't handle the shrooms.
No, I could not handle the shrooms. There are those who the rules protect but must not bind, and those who the rules bind but must not protect.
Yeah, that's basically how Jack wants to roll. No rules for me, but I'm going to punish viscerally anyone who I catch breaking the rules that I just made up.
Yep.
And it's fairly notable that, as soon as Jack starts getting more influence, everything quickly just turns into a trash fire. No one gets actually murdered until Jack's in charge. I can't say no one dies because the first little one, because they didn't know what they were doing at all. But yeah, as soon as Jack's influence becomes ascendant, Simon gets murdered in a frenzy, Piggy is just straight up murdered because he's talking, and Roger likes throwing rocks, and he is fully planning to not just kill Ralph, but mount his head on a stick.
They sharpened the stick at both ends.
Yep. That remains the most terrifying sentence in that book to me, to this day. Because, it's one thing to, I can kill a pig for survival and we're going to put its head on a stick like a trophy. It's another thing to graduate to premeditated murder and then desecration of a body. Of, someone that you knew, that you talked to, that was your friend, in theory. But, well, empathy is for girls, apparently. And for kids. Because Jack doesn't care. Ralph opposed him, Ralph must die. So, yeah, it's really hard to not look at the role of masculinity in the novel because it's explicitly shown that every character in the book is a boy. There's only masculinity at play here. There is no feminine influence. So this is just complete unfettered nascent testosterone from children who are just relying basically on their cultural conditioning and raw instinct. This is what happens when there is no society to hold this in check. If there's no consequence, look what they're willing. Look at people like Jack are willing to do. And the moderating influences of Ralph and Piggy are only able to do so much for so long before they're just completely overwhelmed. So it honestly just speaks to deeper cultural issues that this is how the boys ended up when left to their own devices. That said, having been a teenage girl, I'm not sure if the girls would have ended up much better, but I think it would have gotten a lot cattier before it got violent because there's social conditioning to, be more empathetic and talking. So, girls tend to psychologically destroy you before they break your legs. I don't think that's necessarily better, but I think in a situation on a desert island, dealing with feelings would be a little less lethal than dealing with getting stabbed with a spear. So I don't know. I'm very much speculating in the dark because they haven't made a book that's Lord of the Flies but girls that accurately reflects the middle school girl experience. There's a lot less getting beat up and a lot more rumors being spread. And I don't think that would matter much on an island where there's not a whole lot of social cred.
And not a lot of opportunity for secrets that aren't going to be blatantly obvious to everybody in the vicinity because you're stuck on an island and have limited privacy.
Look, can we just say that you don't want to be on an island where there's only teenagers in charge in either case?
I figured that was a given.
Like, I'm just emphasizing, it doesn't matter if it's a boy island, a girl island, or a co-ed island, it's not going to be a good time. But yeah, I'm not sure where else to go with this.
Well, I think we've pretty much exhausted the subject then.
Alright, until next time then.
We'll give those mushroom things another try. See you then.